Welcome back to the Chatooine Show, everyone, the best and brightest Star Wars show in the galaxy, filled with the wretched hive of scum and villainy. We're here every Wednesday night talking about all things Star Wars. I'm Star Wars only. Tonight I'm joined by the whole crew, Lunga, Palp Memes, and the Goldman. Tonight we're talking all about the Acolyte that debuted last night on Disney Plus. But a quick side note before the show starts. I kind of have a question for you guys, for the audience, for everyone who's tuning in and was waiting as a diehard fan of Chatooine and what we do here. After the Acolyte ends in July, there's going to be like a huge gap in Star Wars content. And we as a show, we're kind of curious how you guys would feel about us covering other shows releasing in big franchises that kind of pique our interest. So right after the Acolyte ends, we could cover something like House of the Dragon, Rings of Power. We're still primarily going to cover Star Wars, of course, but this will let us talk about other things while still giving you guys some weekly quality content. Might be some breaks in between the show and everything, but Star Wars is it's going to be in a weird state over the next like 8 months. We don't really know what's happening, so I want to still give you guys some content to look forward to every week, but not do something that you don't like. So vote in the poll that we put up in the chat and everything. Let us know your thoughts if you're for us covering other stuff other than Star Wars, or if you're not. If you're not for it, that's completely fine. Say no. We do what we can to make you guys happy and give you guys good content. So
Yeah,
let us know your
and
thoughts
please,
on that. But
just
on to the show.
whatever your answer is, just vote because we are relying on you guys to tell us. It literally
Go to the polls and vote.
are determining it
Yeah,
for based on what you guys
vote
want.
now.
So, otherwise,
Vote
we're gonna do
now.
whatever the fuck we want, and if you don't like it, too fucking bad.
We might become bronies and start covering My Little Pony series that come out. I hear that's a big thing, or at least it was 10 years ago when I was in high school. Bronies were everywhere. It's an odd group of people. But on to the show.
You're hanging out there on your own, buddy. Ain't no one talking to you about that.
I know that's something about ponies. But let's talk about the Acolyte, where it has no ponies at all. I hope you guys had a fun time last night watching the Acolyte, even if you didn't really like the show. I kind of think it's fun to watch the Star Wars fandom being active and talking about a new Star Wars project. So if you guys are watching this live, it's probably because you watched the Acolyte, want to hear our reactions. So leave a like and maybe even subscribe to the channel for future episodes covering the Acolyte. And if you really enjoy this nonsense of a show, you can leave a super chat, or even better, you can become a channel member. You remember those? You get it? You remember? You guys get it. But yeah, support the show.
Remember?
Pay the bills. I love to member. But let's get into The Acolyte. 2 episodes came out last night. I imagine all 4 of us watched it as it released. I came back after work and watched it. What's your first reaction to this? Lunga, you usually start us off. What is your first initial reaction to those first 2 episodes of The Acolyte?
It wasn't a crawl at the beginning, right? But that opening crawl that didn't crawl, the music behind it, the words as they were written, and how it went into the scene instantly put me in a Star Wars frame of mind. It just felt right. It did, and I haven't felt that way in a while. While Andor as a show did it for me as I was watching it. This just from it gave me that same feeling of watching the movies that really stuff that I really got into, where it instantly put me in that frame of mind. Even the shitty prequels that I didn't enjoy, right? When I still watched the opening crawl and the way this opened up, it got me in that Star Wars mood, right? So that right off the bat did, and it was an interesting thing, which we're gonna have to play detective here, which again doesn't matter because we don't know if things are actually canon or not canon based on what Disney tells us, but we're debating how far it was. I was saying 50 because that's what all the advanced stuff was saying, but apparently it was 100 years before the rise of the Empire. So that's an important thing. Amanda's that first scene started with her, correct? Yes, it's her on the ship doing her little with the Trade Federation.
The first scene was with May and Indara.
Oh, May,
She's
sorry,
attacking
yes.
Jedi Master Indara.
First scene was with May and Indara, Carrie Ann Moss. Yes, thank you. I loved it. There's a lot of people already talking shit about it beforehand, saying about how it's just the Matrix. They're bringing the Matrix, and even brought the same actress in. And why wouldn't a Jedi be trained in hand-to-hand combat? Why wouldn't they be? And that's a fun movie. People like John Wick for a fucking reason, right? It's fun to see that kind of stuff. And when you think about that kind of hand-to-hand fighting like they did in the Matrix, and you couple it with their powers in the Force, it makes sense. It makes sense to me. I enjoyed that scene tremendously. I thought both of them acted their head off. I loved the whole little bartender with the little kid behind him, and I liked everything that happened in that scene, and it set up the conflict of what is this series is supposed to be about, right? Which I know is going to expand into other stuff, but just that opening scene alone set up what the conflict of this series is. So did you want me to go through my whole feelings of the whole show, or just how I felt starting? Because I'll stop there if that's the case. And I forgot the timer.
Where's the timer?
No,
I
we did
literally
forget
said
the
I forgot
timer.
the timer. I'll stop there.
No, I think that was a good like first initial
that felt
reaction
about 2
to
minutes.
it. Yeah, Palpamemes, go ahead, please.
Yeah. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. I don't have any, big, oh, this sucked or whatever. It's not like that at all. It wasn't the craziest thing in the world. It was fine. I thoroughly enjoyed these episodes. I like the story that they're telling with it. I like the mystical and mysterious aspect of it. Something that I picked up on is when it comes to the character of Mae as the Acolyte, that we're presuming is the Acolyte, she's not allowed, or she's not supposed to use weapons to kill these 4 or 5 Jedi that she's after. And I've always picked up on that. I think what they're going to set up is like, a tier for the Sith sort of whole cult, where you have an Acolyte, then you have the apprentice, and then you have the master. And the Acolyte is trained in just hand-to-hand combat, solely only being able to rely on themselves for going up against their opponents. And I think that's a neat little aspect. Of course, we got at the end with episode 1. I thought the ending was a bit abrupt. I wanted it to be a little bit longer, but I get what they were going with it, with that Sith kind of villain at the end there. I thought his voice sounded cool, but the way his voice was made me think that a lot of this is somewhat playing inside Mae's head. I think there's going to be some sort of spiritual aspect that we're not going to get revealed until the very end of the series, where, of course, that Sith being is going to be there, but I think there's going to be some connection, like a dyad connection between Mae and Osha, that's going to really bring in some conflict for what's going on with the Jedi and all that. When it comes to like aesthetics and stuff, I actually really, really like the way it looks. Yeah, there's some things where it's like you can tell that Disney Plus budget is hitting it pretty hard, but overall for the aesthetics, I really like it. I like the settings. I like the sets and all that. I think the costumes look pretty good for the most part, and something that I think is they're doing the best on aesthetically is the alien designs, especially the Trade Federation people, the Nemorians. They look phenomenal. I hate their voice, though. I wish they had their strong accent from The Phantom Menace. It still pisses me off that they didn't do it, because I love it.
You missed
I
the
don't care if it's
racism.
racist. I fucking loved it, but I got 3 seconds, so it was enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
I was not aware of a Senate invasion.
I love it. I'm sorry. I love it. I don't care.
All right,
Yeah, but
Goldman,
that
give
was-
us.
That's my white
100%.
privilege,
That was 100%
great.
obvious that they literally changed those. Like you felt them
Oh, it threw
trying
me
to
off
make
guard.
it sound a little like it, but not like
well,
like it.
to be fair, they did change it in the 2005 Revenge of the Sith,
Yeah.
and the Nemorians didn't really sound all that, Anywho,
They didn't go too
Goldman,
far.
go ahead. Yeah, Goldman, give us your reaction.
My feelings on this show have not changed from my feelings before the show. I am still totally apathetic towards the show. If you told me and not another single episode would come out, I probably wouldn't lose any sleep over it. That doesn't mean I disliked what happened. I thought the story was interesting. I think they set up some interesting concepts. I do really like the idea of exploring a character that left the Jedi Order when they were younger. Not like Ahsoka, but someone actually left during the time of the Jedi. Just I remember a while ago you guys did a stream on Tales of the Empire, and you guys were discussing the format of the show and whether you actually dislike the episodes and you dislike the format. And I came in and I discussed how I strongly dislike the format of Tales of the Empire. I am just struggling to enjoy the format of these 6 and 8 episode Disney Plus shows. I try my best to accept it and accept that these are basically movies that are split up into 8 parts. And then I essentially only just watched the first fourth of a movie. And yeah, certain things intrigue me. I wouldn't say I'm invested. I'm curious, as the show has my curiosity. I'll get into my thoughts more about the specifics of the story, because that's what's most important. But I just cannot separate my frustrations for Disney Plus Star Wars live action and The Acolyte. So that's where most of my apathy towards the show stems from. Just Disney Plus and the scope of the show.
Would you say it's like Well, are you done there? Are you done?
Yeah,
You had
for
a
now.
minute left. Would you say it's like the way it looks, the way
It-
it's? I mean, was it the, is it
Sure,
the
I'll
writing? I
spend.
guess?
It's definitely not the writing. We're entering this new era of Star Wars, right? Of course,
Mm-hmm.
the High Republics existed in books or whatnot, but for most people, it's a new era of Star Wars. Other than different robes for the Jedi, they haven't really differentiated anything. What makes the High Republic different than before?
We got the vector ships.
All we
Those look good.
for
The
sure
one
different
we
kinds of
saw.
ships, but all we have is like characters in a room, 1 4-second shot of like a transition shot, then more characters in a room. It's like even with the prequels, right? When they're walking through the temple, it just feels so big. And yeah, it was all CGI and didn't look great, but it just felt so big. It felt like a big part of the universe. In this, every Jedi temple shot is just like a hallway or a little room or a little prison cell. I'm just Star Wars to me is so much about the universe. Yeah, the stories in Star Wars aren't like the most well-written stories ever, right? A big reason we love Star Wars is because of the Star Wars universe. And this show has not tapped into expanding the Star Wars universe for me. It can going forward, just so far it hasn't. And a big part of that is just the scope of the show.
I mean, I guess my follow up question on that Goldman is did you expect or would you expect any show in the first 2 episodes to expand that for you? Do you think it's even really possible?
Did I expect a Star Wars show on Disney Plus to do that? No.
In 2 episodes.
Would I expect any show that's a fantasy show that could expand on it? Yes, I would. Not Star Wars on Disney Plus.
I mean, as
but
much
any
as I
show,
love Game of Thrones and loved House of the Dragon, the first 2 episodes of House of the Dragon didn't expand much for me from what Game of Thrones
House
did.
of Dragon's a little different because Game of Thrones preceded it, but Game of Thrones absolutely did.
But
I
that
wanna
was-
say
there
something
was
about, like-
nothing else.
And
But yeah, let's
let
get
me
back
give
on.
my
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
my reaction to this. I will say I like this show a lot more than I originally thought I would, but I really share the same sentiment with Goldman about like there's aspects of this where Disney Plus is kind of coming into question. You know, it's almost a question of sometimes would these shows be better in animation and everything to fully flesh out the story. I like the characters in the show. I like the plot and the story to it. I really like the lead, mainly Osha. I think she is a very good character, and the action is good. My critiques with the show come out in that this is like good on the surface level of Star Wars. Yes, you guys did real sets and all that stuff, but the way this is filmed, the way that they have gone about actually directing and editing and the cinematography and this, that's where I kind of get pulled out a little bit, and there's some weakness, and also some of the character designs, like the makeup and costumes. Vernestra, whatever, the High Republic Jedi, she looks probably the worst I've ever seen
Is
in
it that's
any
the Green
Star Wars
Jedi
project.
that confronted
The
Soul?
Green Jedi, she looks
Yeah.
horrible,
Yeah.
beyond horrible.
I didn't like
it is,
her either. It was weird.
it's
I was
embarrassing.
surprised.
It's truly
looks
embarrassing.
awkward. It looks awkward
does.
if that makes any
It-
sense.
and so does Jecki, Soul's
I like
Padawan,
Jecki.
and so
I like
does
Jecki.
Yord's Padawan.
She was
I mean,
okay.
I like them. So I like Jecki as a character, but I don't like the way they look. It's stuff like this where it's like this is where they start to look a little cheap. And like Goldman was saying about, you know, it seems like the Jedi Temple are kind of like in one room. They do this a lot with some of these sets where they build them, but they don't expand upon them. And yeah, they have certain characters in the background and everything, but it's just this show is edited very weird, and I don't like the abrupt endings to things, but for the most part, I am interested in it. I am curious about how the future of this series is going to go, and the plot to it does intrigue me. But there's a lot of glaring problems with this that I think stem from the fact that it is a Disney Plus show, and I don't think they give Star Wars the proper dedication for these shows like they should, kind of like they did with Andor.
I don't know if it's a matter of dedication. It's not a matter of budget. It's about a matter of like allocating resources and all that. But I want to say like one thing real quick because we're talking about the Jedi Temple, if that's okay. One thing I did notice that I actually really liked is the Jedi sort of order kind of feels more like a community than it did in the prequels. And I don't know if that's because we're seeing more of the younger Jedi and Padawans and stuff. But it reminds me a lot of like Hogwarts with Harry Potter, where you get a sense of community that we didn't really, at least for me, I didn't get with the prequel trilogy. It's a small thing, but I like that aspect of
I
it.
think that's
Everyone
because
kind of
you see
knows
the Jedi
everyone like a
talking.
school. It's like a
Yeah.
school kind of thing. Everyone kind of
people
knows
were
everyone. Even there's a
excited.
lot of them. Yeah.
Like you see it with Yord. You know, he's like very proud and excited to become a knight. You know, and moving up, and there's, I wouldn't say rivalry, but you could feel like there's like this
There's a competition.
just between Jecki, Yord, and even Osha. Like it's this kind of almost a competition of who moved up faster, who could do what they did, or who did a better job. So yeah, it's a little more than that. Whereas when we think about Star Wars, in our prime universe timeline, the original trilogy, maybe the prequels, it almost felt like your duty. It isn't about advancing and becoming, it's just your duty, except for Anakin, who was supposed to be the one-off, right? I deserve to be a master. I want to be in the council, not be a master. So yeah, I do agree with that. I think that is a major difference that separated it to what Goldman was saying.
Well, what do you guys think about the May and Osha reveal that they're twins? They thought each other were dead and everything like that. That's not the big twist of the series, but that's something that they tackled head on at the beginning. I don't think the execution was all that perfect, but I am on board with the concept. I like the premise of this plot with these two characters and everything. What do you guys think now that we've seen the 2 episodes and that we know for sure that there's 2 separate twins?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was pretty cool just for, it's not just the fact that they're twins, right? It's the fact of whatever happened on their home planet when Sol saved Osha and May died, where I guess Osha says May set their house on fire. But apparently these other Jedi were involved, right? Torben, and Carrie Moss's character, Sol. They were all in Dara, yeah. They were all involved in whatever happened there. And the other ones, Torben and Dara, seemed to like they were not like there's something like they were not happy about whatever happened there, maybe with themselves. Torben definitely acted like he was disappointed himself for something that happened there, how he acted. Where Sol doesn't seem to. So I'm wondering if Sol knows what they did or didn't do. But I like the fact that whole, mystery of what happened there and how these Jedi were involved is being played into it as well. And it's the murder mystery kind of thing is what they're doing. Not only who's killing the Jedi, which we know right off the bat, it's what happened to their family, right? Why did they think May die, but she didn't? And why did May think Osha was dead when she was? Because they both thought each other was dead. It was a complete, opposite of each other. So I did enjoy that quite a bit. And I think it's making for a good story. And to kind of, I know you don't necessarily like it only, but the abruptness at the end, I think it's because we're not having contained stories per episode, right? This is a story that's continuing on that could be like done in a movie fashion. So could they maybe streamline it a little bit better at the end to give you a little more of a finishing feel for the episode, perhaps? But I feel that this is one of the things that you can watch back to back to back and get the whole story as you're watching it. I know some people don't like that when they're watching a TV show, but no, I think the whole twin thing it doesn't bother me. I don't think it's an issue. And I think it's actually setting up the bigger story of everything around it in a good way. And what people have been saying too, it's obviously a forced dyad. The fact that they're having communications with each other as children and so on and so forth.
Al Memes, how you feeling about the twins, May and Osha?
I mean, I think it's all right. It wasn't surprising or anything. They revealed it in all the marketing they were doing, so it's not like it was a twist per se. It's an interesting storyline. The biggest question is, well, who saved May and who's training her? We would imagine it's the same person or same group at least. That's for me the big mystery of this series. I'm sure we can agree is who is this person, being cult group, whatever, training this acolyte, and is it actually connected to the Sith? That's the thing, is we don't know if it's connected to the Sith. Right? I know a lot of people want it to be, and I understand why. I'd like it to be connected to the Sith in some way, but we don't know if it is. I thought the twist was fine. I think they could have written it to drag it out a little bit more to have some more drama with them believing it was Osha, but I wasn't mad whenever it got revealed to Sol and everyone else so quickly. I mean, like I kind of said it all. I don't have much to say or add on to it other than just that is, for me, the more interesting thing is who is May being trained by, why she is out for these Jedi, and how is the other Jedi going to go about that? Because if it is a Sith, that leads me to the question is, okay, how does this get reported back to the Jedi Council and them not believe them? Or are they all going to die in a crazy way? And it remains a mystery for, well, up until the prequel trilogy when Maul reveals himself, I think they could do it that way as well.
All
right, Goldman.
Piggyback on that. Leslie Headland herself told us that this is exploring the Sith and how the Sith work. So unless she's straight up lying, that's what it is about. So saying we don't know for sure if it is. She told us flat out it is.
And to go off that is true. I do think they could do some sort of Sith cult thing that's not directly tied to the Sith, which at least in the EU, and I hope they follow it, would
She
be
says
Tenebrous for sure.
The rule of she said literally about the rule of two, the apprentice, the
Okay,
master,
fair
and how
enough.
the
Yeah,
acolyte,
I didn't see
mean,
those. I mean, I just didn't see all
Yeah.
that, but fair enough.
That's not how
that'll be cool then.
Goldman's time.
Thank you. The twin stuff is interesting for sure. I do like the duality of, we have one that's a bit on the light side, one that's a bit on the dark side, and the mystery surrounding the past I don't find as intriguing as I wish I did. And I think the reason why is because there's just too many questions. I'm not sure what to speculate about. We know that something happened in the past. There was some sort of fire that killed a bunch of people. Osha thinks it killed her whole family, and Mae thinks it killed her whole family and Osha. I just think it would have been better if we got maybe a clear perspective from what like Osha saw, and then Mae has conflicting reports. This will probably get fleshed out in the future. But the whole twins aspect is interesting. I will say I really dislike the fact that the twins are played by the same actress. I just struggle to picture powerful scenes that could happen in the future between the two. Because, it's like Amanda Stenberg's going to have to play Osha on one half of the screen. They're going to cut. She'll change her outfit and then play Mae on the other side of the scene. I just picture there being really intimate moments between these two as sisters because it's played by the same actress. So that's something that kind of takes away from my enjoyment of or investment in this story, because I really struggle to picture how these two are going to bond going forward. But again, the concept of these two and what they're setting up with them, I think is interesting. I wouldn't say I'm super hooked, but I'm intrigued, certainly. And the ties to the Sith and what the Sith are trying to do with the way the Sith and Mae are trying to defeat the Jedi is really interesting. So we'll get into that. But I do like the duality of them. I just wish they were played by different actresses. Especially since the mystery surrounding if Osha actually killed Indar only lasted like an episode.
Have you ever seen Orphan Black?
No.
It's good. Orphan Black is literally the one who's in She-Hulk, or her name is escaping me now. But she played multiple Tatiana Maslany. She played multiple clones of herself, and they were all different personalities, but they were all hard. She played all of them and interacted with each other. If you have the right actress in the right direction, it works very well.
It's certainly possible. I have just never seen it. You ever seen Alien Covenant?
Yeah.
I am
Yes.
traumatized by the scenes of Michael Fassbender kissing Michael Fassbender.
Kissing himself?
Yeah. So I know it's not going to be the same thing, but I haven't seen it done well. I've seen
And not
times where
awkward because he's
characters
kissing himself.
Hold on,
because
no.
this didn't fit in the whole thing.
I have never seen an actor have a powerful scene with the same actor where the actor is playing two characters. I've never seen it. I'm sure it's happened.
Orphan Black.
But there you go.
It was a good show
so
called
I can't-
iCarly. Sam had her
Sam's-
sister and everything.
Yeah, except they were barely in the same scene. Like I remember that episode, but yeah, that's just something. See, a lot of this show, and I'm gonna sound negative. It's like I have this parts of the story intrigue me. There's just stuff in my back of my mind that I know about, like the production of the show, the fact that the same actress is playing two different characters. That's just making me. It's just one extra barrier that's making me feel fully invested. It may seem like a small thing to most people, but just something that's in my mind, and I
think it's
something in the future.
I want to say, like, not to throw words in your mouth, but I feel like it's your lack of faith in Disney Plus, which is justified, which is very justified given history.
A lot of things, yes. This thing with the same actor, that's not Disney Plus related. That's just that trope that twins are played by the same actress or actor.
So I'll say for my take on the twins is that I can agree that I think is it Amandala or Amanda?
Amandala.
There's an L.
Amandala, okay.
Yeah, there's no.
Her playing the twins, I do see a slight issue with it just because I feel like when she plays Osha, she does an amazing job. I feel like when she's playing Mae, it's not that different, and plus the hair is kind of the same. Mae has the longer hair, Osha has the shorter one. The distinct between them two is not very drastic in my opinion. I think
She has some kind of scar on her head or tattoo.
Yeah,
which Carrie Moss is
tattoo from
trying
the
to
witch
see.
thing. Yeah. I noticed that, but for the most part, I was just, But I do like what you guys were talking about. Osha is clearly, light side adjacent, and Mae is dark side adjacent, and you could see the difference just in that opening episode in the first couple scenes with them, because Osha risk her life to save this random guy she doesn't even know or anything like that. Gets trapped on the ship and everything. She's trying to help the Jedi out and everything. I think just from watching it, she seems like a very good person to me, and I like her character a lot.
Plus, she was with everyone not trusting her. She didn't get angry.
No, she held no grudges against the Jedi.
Right.
She was like, "Look, I left the Order on my own will. Why would I ever kill Master Indara? What do you need from me? I'm here to help," kind of thing. I like that.
Where you
and
really
one thing
can
I like
tell
to.
The difference between the two roles she plays is when they went back to the apothecarist, the guy who's working with her who made the poison. The way she acted as Mae talking to him, and the way she acted as Osha talking to him, you could see the stark difference in their personalities. Where with him, he's like, "Wait a minute, you're not."
Yeah,
you could tell.
He's like, "Oh, you look just like her and everything." It was that was a decent scene. My thing with Mae though that I did like at the beginning was her using the bartender and his son as like bait to get the Jedi to put her guard down to kill her, because especially with the Bay Knight rule too of Sith, Bane, unlike the Sith before him, really promoted this kind of stuff where it was like, look, you don't have to beat the Jedi in combat. We can cheat. We can use other people. We can do small little things to get them killed and defeat them. If we win, it doesn't matter how we did it. We won. Whereas, like a fan, I'm like, no, I want to see you actually fight the Jedi, lightsaber combat and everything. You're not going to get that every time. So I like that Mae is using that kind of dark side element and probably learned that from her Sith master. And the Sith master is saying, don't use a weapon.
Yeah, and she's uber corny about it. Fight me, and everyone's laughing
I don't
at
like
her.
the corniness. I don't like the corniness.
But it's played into it because everyone started laughing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at the beginning, but then she kept going. For me, it's the pose. It's the little pose hand thing she does and everything.
And they were laughing at her.
Times.
Pretty cheesy. I agree for me.
No, that's one of my biggest complaints about.
That's the whole point.
Okay, not everything in this though. Her fighting the guy floating in the air and everything. You can say it's meant to be cheesy as a joke, but I'm not laughing with the show. I'm laughing at it at some of these scenes, and most of it's because of the way it looks or is shot in some situations where I'm like, this is just kind of there's 3 C's I say you should never go for: cringy, corny, and cheesy. And this show really did hit all of those in certain moments. Doesn't mean I didn't like it, because overall I do like the show so far, but that is what's holding this show back, is that there's certain moments in this where it's just like, damn, that was really, really fucking cheesy, and it didn't need to be.
See,
some of it works.
I like that just because it was intentionally meant to be that way. In universe, it was meant to be that way because they laughed at her. It was meant to be that. Like, what is she talking about? It was meant to be that way. So that's why I enjoyed it. That's why it didn't bother me. And she continued it on. She's obviously being taught this by whoever she's talking to. And I like how you mentioned it, how they brought it up in they like, because Star Wars fans in general, if they're not being very, not trying to really dissect something, they're like, oh, why is she fighting without a lightsaber? But they made it part of the story, right? Her master told her, you need to defeat them without a weapon. You know what I mean? And even with the Indara thing, even though she tried to act confident, you could tell she didn't know if she could beat her, especially without a weapon. You know what I mean? So she was losing. Why she went with
she was losing most of the fight.
She went to these little knives, do they not count as weapons?
Thing.
Well, they are weapons, but they're not a lightsaber.
No. But still, no, she wasn't supposed to. Because remember, when she was talking to the drug guy, he was telling her, you killed him with weapons. She's like, well, I can do the last one without weapons, because she did kill Indara with a weapon, not just a lightsaber, a weapon. She's supposed to kill him in hand-to-hand combat, like not using a weapon. Or
she even says she just needs to kill one without a weapon.
Right. That's
and
what
she needs to kill 4, and it's crazy that she's trying to kill all 4. I mean, that's not an easy for an acolyte to do that. I feel like amongst the Sith, that is. I'm impressed that she just killed the first one, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
and the second one,
feeling that they're sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say I felt like the second one was weird, but I want to talk about that with you guys here in a second. But finish what you're saying.
Oh, sorry. I know we're all.
No, I was just going to say the thing real quick. I think that what he's trying to get at is she needs to use the Force, not just her hands.
Yeah, all herself.
That we're getting at.
I will say I wasn't the biggest fan of how Indara died. I thought it could have been better, because it's like you have this grand Jedi Master. No, she's not Grand Master, but great Jedi Master, I'd say. And how she got so easily distracted over there, I don't know. It just kind of was like, okay, are you that stupid?
Wasn't easily distracted. She if you look on her face, she knew that she was forfeiting her life by saving him.
She has 2 hands. I'm sorry.
No,
it
yeah, the
was-
Force
she was-
takes focus
No,
and
no, but-
control.
and not only
She's a
that,
master.
but May's
Mm.
character was also, she wasn't just throwing knives; she was using the Force to throw them. They were going much
Yeah,
faster.
100%, 100%. I'm just thinking you're so like the whole fight. She had it 100% of the way. She's a Jedi master, right? And I'm aware May is really well trained by some Sith thing, but it's you throw a knife at one guy, she catches it, and then like 3 seconds later she gets another one thrown in her. I'm just kind of convoluted. I'm like, okay, hang on. If Jedi can see way far ahead, that's just kind of wild. But you can call that a nitpick, you know. Maybe it is. I don't know. It's just something that threw me off a bit.
I'd like
We
to
did get a
follow up
super
on
chat, guys.
something.
Yeah, just read the super chat real quick and we'll keep going.
Yeah, Will of the Force says, seeing that the more skilled a Jedi is, the less they need their saber for battle was crazy cool. Wish we got to see Qui-Gon do some Force foo.
I love the Force food, by the way. Like,
so do I.
I don't get why people
Thank you,
are-
Will of the Force.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you
I'm
for the super
confused
chat.
why people are complaining about that. It just seems weird. I rather
People
see
were complaining
Jedi
that there was a
who can-
fire on the ship in space, even though it's been
Yeah.
done
Yes,
for like every
sure,
day.
it's right.
That
It's-
was-
let me finish my point. Let me finish my
That one
point.
did bother
Let me
me.
finish my point. One thing I really liked about this is, of course, you know, may or may not been able to defeat Indara if she had her own lightsaber. But I heard an interesting point. It was about the prequels, and the point was that a big part of Palpatine's plan was not just killing the Jedi and becoming the Empire. He wanted to tarnish the Jedi's reputation. He wanted to start the war, the Clone Wars, put the Jedi in situations where they expose their hypocrisy. So then when he does kill all the Jedi, people don't entirely mind because they realize the Jedi were corrupt and all that. I really like the idea of forcing a Jedi to attack you, because what May does in the beginning, right, is at first she's just attacking everyone else. She's not attacking Indara, and then Indara attacks. So she's like, okay, Indara has now attacked me. I can now attack her back. So I like that little aspect, and I think this is maybe how Leslie Headland plans on tying it into the prequels, is beginning to tarnish the reputation of the Jedi just a little bit. And they even touch on that when the green chick and I forgot everyone's character. What's the name of-
Vernestra.
Yeah,
Rose.
her and the
Vernestar.
and what's the Soul? When they
Soul,
were talking, they were worried about the politics behind the perception of the Jedi.
Yep,
It's like, oh, it's bad politics if
It was like her
If-
first worry. Yeah.
it's like the politics of the Jedi. It's not good if another super chat. If
Oh,
a,
thank you, Tom.
a
Sticker.
Jedi
Thank you.
kills another Jedi. So sorry, was waiting for the noise to finish. So yeah, that stuff is really interesting, and that was something that was hinted at in the first scene of the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and with that too, I think what makes the idea of May not using a weapon to kill the Jedi, it's reinforced with what the Sith guy was saying at the end of the first episode, where he was like, the Jedi believe in a lie everyone believes in, that you can't kill a Jedi like without a weapon or something like that. So it seems like whoever this Sith is that's doing all this planning and trying to hurt and destroy the Jedi, he's trying to strike them at a certain core and really kind of like challenge them in a way, and you know, just let them know that like you're a lot weaker than you have ever thought you were.
Did you guys catch the connections to the actual Sith code? I forgot the
Oh
name
yeah,
of the,
yeah.
of the guy. who drunk
Because
a lot.
pieces,
Pieces
and
a
she's like,
lot.
I know it's a lie, ha ha ha. You know.
I kind of like
Yeah,
that.
I like that.
Honestly,
Well, so what's his name? Quamir, Chimere?
Chimera.
Anyone know?
I believe it's
Yeah.
Chimera.
What do you guys think about Chimere? 'Cause-
the apothecarist.
Yeah, because I'm seeing mixed reactions where some people are saying that he is the Sith with the mask and everything, but I really feel like he's like another acolyte. I think he's working with May, who
Yeah.
also, I think they both work for this Sith apprentice guy who they think
It's a
is
little
the
culty.
master.
It's a little culty.
Yeah, yeah. And so I kind of like the mystery around him and everything. A lot of people think he's the Sith master or the Sith apprentice or anything. Do you guys believe in that at all? Would you guys be surprised? Because I feel like if they did a reveal like that, it's one of those two on the nose. Because I hate to say it, when people are like, "Oh, maybe he's a Sith," it's like, "Wow, really? You think the only
Yeah.
ally that the dark side person has happens to be the Sith?" Like, oh, what a
Yeah.
big reveal! Like that doesn't check out for me.
Unfortunately, while I'm
You don't
I'm
have to do
not
the timer for this.
buying. Oh well, whatever. While I'm not buying into that theory, it's not too far fetched, and it sounds like something they would do in a Star Wars show. And when you look at that guy that appears to be the Sith with the mask, he has the same kind of body frame as he does.
Skinny
So
dude.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's trying to play her from both sides, right? As her master and as a friend, and to try to test her and do this. It wouldn't surprise me if they went that route. But thank you for bringing this up, because this brings up what I was alluding to at the very beginning. This is taking place 100 years before the Empire, so roughly 119, 120 BBY. We know, again, if they stick with the timelines, because they can't make Plagueis that old. Plagueis was born somewhere around 120 to 147 BBY, so he was either just a baby or not born yet by the time this was starting. However, the very little information we have on Tenebris, it came from some short story. His master was a Twi'lek. But Tenebris died somewhere between 167 and 124 BBY. So the 124 years, somewhere around this, around that time, or not? No, excuse me, not died. That's when he became a death lord. But either way, I have a feeling that this Sith apprentice who's manipulating her is probably Tenebris. It's not Plagueis. It's probably Tenebris. And the Sith Lord is that Twi'lek, the unnamed one that we don't know. Even in canon, they never gave us a name for him. That's my theory on what it is. But I could definitely see them going with this queer thing, because it's something that they would do. Let's just put it that way. It doesn't seem out of the realm of something they would do.
I think if they did do something along the lines of like Tenebris or Plagueis or anything, I think they would throw us a slight curveball. I think it would be Darth Venomous that is the apprentice here, who was trying to recruit an acolyte.
That Tenebris put the tanks and shit.
Yes, so Darth Tenebris. Yes, Darth Tenebris was also obsessed with science and everything, and seeing the future mainly, and of course living forever. He wanted to see the end of the rule too, just like Palpatine, just like Plagueis did, and all that. So Tenebris had Plagueis as an apprentice, and he had Darth Venomous as an apprentice. Who Venomous was also a Bith. So oh yeah, it's fucking Star Wars, all right?
It was literally the beginning of the whole Palpatine's with the clone and coming
it was
back.
It was the beginning of the end for the Jedi, and it was beginning of the Sith realizing, okay, now is the time we finally put things in. But yeah, Goldman, you're right. These are dumb names, but we also had Savage Opress in Clone Wars. So I mean, that's a pretty fucking bad name as well.
On the nose much.
I also think Osha is kind of a odd name, because every time I hear that, I just think of like Osha, the company,
think of Yoshi
rights
from Mario.
Well, come on,
what?
Omar.
Where the fuck did you get that?
Plagueis,
Yoshi,
Plagueis
Osha.
is a weird spelling of plague. Okay.
Yeah, I know, but that works.
It's just Insidious without the IN.
Yeah. But those names actually sound kind of good. Like,
yeah,
Darth Maul was a badass name. I mean, Darth Tyrannus is where I'm kind of like, all right, it's a little corny,
And it was spelled like a T-Rex, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they have other ones like Darth Cognus and all that. These names aren't all that creme de la creme. But yeah, I think it could be Darth Venomous and everything. I don't want it to be Chimere or whatever. I want him to be another acolyte and everything. I want the Sith to actually kind of mean something in this. And so far, the way they're doing it, it's working for me. And my favorite part so far when it comes to like the Sith and everything wasn't even the reveal of the guy at the end of the first episode. It was Soul looking into Mae's mind and being like, "Oh my gosh, like your masters hide his identity from you." Like, wow, okay, like he went through great lengths for that. I think that's a very powerful thing for him, and that I think that means, in my mind, that Mae is going to be used. I think she's going to be like planned to be tossed aside. I think Mae or Osha's going to die.
Osha let her go when she was running, and honestly, while I really did enjoy Amanda Stenberg's portrayal as Osha and as a lead character, I thought she was great. So far, for me, Soul is the champ of these episodes. The actor, the character, everything about it. The lines land perfectly. The emotes he does land perfectly. That his timing was perfect. It was just a great character. He's the champ for me so far in this 2 episodes.
I like Soul so far. Yord, I will say, I do like Yord a little bit. I like the cringiness and the jokingness and
I don't.
Really?
Dude, he was steaming his robes.
That one was a little much. That one was a little
Jedi, much. All the Jedi besides Soul just have very little personality to me. Like Yord, that's his name. Yeah, he's like a little bit more uptight. That's like the bare minimum of a personality trait. It's like how to make a boring guy just as boring by giving him a trait. Yeah, he's by the
I
numbers type
thought
of guy.
Jackie had a good personality. I like Jackie's.
Yeah, she
Well,
had like a
Jackie's
few little
personality-
moments of banter with Yord. It's like, okay, it's better than we got in the prequels, sure. But
not
What
just
what I
that,
like about
they're showing
Jackie
she's
though
the
is her
smart one.
relationship. Well, yeah, but
Well,
and I
she's a
like the
little smart,
relationship she
sure.
has with Soul because she clearly has like there's a scene where she's talking to Osha, and the second Soul walks in, Jackie like turns around and like stops what she's doing. She has like this weird respect for him. Not weird, I mean it's her master, and but she has like very clear respect for him as like kind of textbook Jedi, and it's kind of clear that Soul isn't really into that stuff right now. Where he's like, okay, hang on, like I'm he's personally invested in this situation because of Osha, and I will say as characters I really do like the bond that they have because it's not even like master and apprentice. It truly is like he is a long lost friend, and he's like, look, like I'm trying to help you here. So there's aspects of these characters that really do work for me, but that mostly pertains to the relationships they have with each other. And the characters themselves don't have a lot of depth to them at the moment. Osha does, but not really. And I think a lot of these problems go back to what Goldman was saying about these Disney Plus shows and being like 6 to 8 episodes. I gotta ask you guys, because this is how I feel about it. This show is way too short. The pacing of the show isn't the worst thing in the world, like some people are saying. I think the editing is
All of
bad,
them are.
but I think the way they fail to like, if this was Andor, the first couple episodes of Andor, you just learn about Cassian's life on his home planet and everything. Really, you kind of need something like that in this to really get you invested in these characters and what's going on. I understand it can be boring in some aspects, but the show is so fucking fast paced that there become moments like at the end of the first episode is my biggest example. That should have been a very slow scene. It went from a scene about the Jedi and everything, and it literally just cuts immediately to May walking, and it's like the Jedi think this and that, and they believe this and that, but they're wrong, and Acolyte kills the dream. It was way too fast of an ending. And Long, I know like you were saying, like, oh, it could be because they were. No, I don't think it was like a intentional story to sit that was wrong with it. I think it was the editing. I think the editing is awful to just cut to that. They should have done what they did with Rey in the end of the Force Awakens, where there's a couple minutes of her just walking up into this place and everything. Like Golden was saying, really making the world feel real and lived in. A lot of these episodes and scenes and everything are just them cutting to a place, getting what they need to get out in dialogue, and then moving on immediately. I don't like that. I don't even like the ending to the second episode where it's just these two guys show up and then the Jedi Wookiee comes out and like, "Argh," and then it's like, okay, I get that's what's coming next, but
Well-
that's how you build up to it. It's not like Chekhov's gun where you mention it in one scene then follow up later. They literally just go right. If May had said at the first episode, like, now I need to go consult my master and see what the next plan is or something like that, I'd be like, oh, cool, we're gonna see him. And then when she sees him at the end, I would have been like, oh, this is cool, this is him. It just went from like, all right, guys, we got to go find out who the murderer is. Oh, we got to kill the Jedi and everything. It's like, what?
I totally agree. By the way,
We know what you're getting at. That was a very long segue into this question. let's get into it.
Oh, that
But
wasn't a
you're right.
segue. Sorry, but yeah, no, that was
Well,
me
you were
giving
asking
my
us the
take.
question, right? Yes. Okay, I didn't know I was giving your take. Okay, I misunderstood him. I thought you were just usually you don't give your take
segue
with
into
the
what
question.
was it?
The
Do you think
question.
it was a segue?
The question that he's asking us. He's asking us what we felt about that. But I'll let you finish if that was actually your answer. Go ahead.
No, that truly was it. I hated the way they ended that
Oh, okay.
first episode. I hated the editing and the pacing of a lot of this stuff. But what do you guys feel about how they've ended these episodes, especially with that scene revealing the Sith?
The ending and the ending and the pacing again. I don't think it's the issue. My issue is what I've had problems with all of these shows is they need to be 45 minutes. And when I say 45 minutes, I'm not talking about with credits. Okay. Because right now, the first episode without the credits was 35 minutes. The second one was like 32 without the credits. These need to be solid 45-minute episodes, 50 minutes with the credits or whatever. And it needs to be 10 episodes. Okay. They're just too short. There's not much you can do in 30 and 35 minutes if you're trying to tell a big story with multiple characters in it. Right. So I don't think they could have done much better with that, with the time constraints they had, without it feeling even more cut off than it was. That's what I'm seeing. So I don't think it's a fault in editing and pacing. I think it's a fault in this is what you guys are getting. This is the time you got. This is the.
But do you think Disney was like, these episodes need to be this time? Or do you think they used up
See,
their
that,
budget
I
and it was like,
disagree.
it goes by money?
No, hang on.
this is how much
Andor
you
was
have.
far more expensive to make than this show.
No,
was it?
Yes,
No, this is
Andor was like
180
200
million.
Andor was like $200 million to make
Andor
that
was
first
about
season.
like 250 if I
Was
recall
it?
correctly. But
Yeah.
Andor also has 4 extra episodes, so you have to do
It
the math
does,
that
There
way.
you
but
go. There you
these
go.
but hang on, but these episodes are also kind of long as well. I feel like the reason these episodes are so
I just
short in
told
the
you
Acolyte
they're
is
32
the
and
writing.
35.
The rest of the
32 and 35
episodes,
minutes,
the
bro.
links of the next 2 episodes got revealed and they're much shorter.
That's
Yeah,
I think that's a problem. But Palpable memes, Goldman, do you guys
Yeah,
feel
can I-
like the runtime of these are an issue at all?
I want to kind of go on like the abrupt endings and stuff because I thought the first episode ending was fine. I didn't think it was as bad as like you thought it was only, but for me, I hated the second episode's ending with the Wookiee played by Jonas. I thought that was just I was like, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do murder of the week episodes. First episode's the murder of Indara. Second episode's the murder of T-Boy, whatever his name is, Torben. Episode 3 is going to be the murder of the Wookiee Jedi, unless he survives. Episode 4 is going to, and I'm like, okay, I see the format they're going with, and I hope there's more depth and layers to it than just that. I want to say that the first 4 episode links got revealed.
They're shorter.
And my Reddit's not opening. Okay, episode 3. Okay, so episode 3 is going to be 42 after credits. Episode 4 is only going to be 32 minutes after credits. So episode 4 is only going to be like 26, 27 minutes without credits. So I do see a problem with there, but at the end of the day, like it could just be this is how much writing they had for the story, and that's all they needed. But I think, I mean, just look at Andor. Look at Andor's success. Look how much development we got through each character. Oh, there was a lot of characters in Andor. Yes, there was 4 more episodes, but there was also 4 arcs instead of what you could have had as a 3 arc series, and an 8 episode show, or 3, 2, whatever. And so I do think it suffers a little bit because of that.
Yeah, and this is not. You could tell we're not doing arcs. This is a very linear,
Yes.
linear story. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I don't know. When I watched 1 and 2, since I watched them back to back like that, it didn't feel truncated to me. It felt like it kind of flowed. Now, ending with the Wookiee, you know what? That was the tease. Oh, here's the Wookiee. Everyone wants to see the Wookiee. So
It's like,
next episode,
well, why do I
next
care?
episode,
It's like I don't know who
tune
this
in to
guy
see the
is. I
Wookiee.
don't care. Yeah,
That's a good point. The show doesn't give you.
thing. It's a Wookiee.
Yeah.
he looks stupid.
But the show
and-
does have that problem with some of these characters, and the plot itself is it hasn't really, and I think this is why Goldman, like he said, he's he could not see it going forward and not care. It hasn't given anybody a real reason to care just yet. When I'm watching Andor, the first 3 episodes, I really wasn't on board. But as the time went on, I was like, all right, I want to see how this ends up going and everything. I want to see him get out of the prison. I want to see them pull off this heist. I want to see what happens to Cyril and this other Imperial lady and everything. I don't have that interest at the moment with this series so far. But Goldman, I don't want to, hijack your words.
Thank you. I definitely want to touch on the ending because I'm shocked by how good of your analogy with the ending of Force Awakens was. Because the Force Awakens, I love the movie, but I think it's a wonderfully paced film. The movie took the time to highlight how important it is that Rey is finding Luke. Just little things like that, just her walking up the steps for a minute. It just adds tension and it adds emphasis to the scene. I think a lot about the comparisons between The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker, because I think one movie, The Force Awakens, is beautifully paced, and I think The Rise of Skywalker is terribly paced. And the reason why is because The Force Awakens at times allows the story to breathe and absorb the moment. Little moments like in Force Awakens when Rey first lands on Takodana, she just walks outside and looks at the sunset. Just a small moment that slows the pace down and gives you a character moment where they appreciate something they've never seen before. And I was thinking about, and then with the ending of the Acolyte, it's like, oh, we get one shot where May is walking, and then we get a long shot of the Sith. He like ignites his lightsaber unnecessarily, like Maul did at the end of Solo. And it's
So
like, okay,
dramatic.
cool. It's like, oh, this guy's a Sith. Like, we get it, red lightsaber. So it's just like, I don't know, just let the moment breathe. Let her walk for a little bit. Let the scenery develop.
Surely
And-
it wouldn't have cost that much more money because that's an actual place they were at.
35-minute
Like,
episode.
But the
They
point-
can't have
okay,
the
but-
time
but
But it's
for
like,
it.
wait, let me.
Okay, well then that's
Would it increase the budget dramatically if they had a
That's what I'm
15
saying.
second shot, 15 to 20 second shot of her walking down a beach? like some suspenseful
To
music
me,
builds up
when you say
to the
let it
reveal of a
breathe,
Sith.
it's 15 seconds is not it. You
You-
need
what are
like
you talking
15
about?
seconds is
Dude,
plenty
it
of
doesn't
time
have
to
to be
let something
15
happen.
seconds.
We need absolutely more than 15 seconds, but 15 seconds is better than 0 seconds. It's better than the shot cutting to her standing unnecessarily 30 feet away from a
Again,
guy she's having a conversation
if you
with.
do if you made the episodes 45 minutes, you can get
And
all
so,
that
yes,
you need.
You can say
but-
you can say that Disney's not giving them the more time. I'm not blaming the writers for this or the editors for this. It could be their fault. It could not be their fault. It's still an issue. Whether whose fault
Yeah,
it is,
I'm
it
with
doesn't matter.
Goldman.
At the end of the
Yeah,
day,
it's still an
it is
issue.
a fundamental issue because on it, like you look at something like Empire Strikes Back, whenever they land in a little asteroid thing and they have to deal with the TIE fighters just chasing down. There's a minute where they're just sitting there doing nothing, chilling, repairing the ship and all that stuff. You get iconic moments like Leia and Han kissing for the first time, stuff like that, like character-driven moments and everything.
We
A lot
keep
of these Star
comparing it
Wars
to
shows have a
movies,
problem.
guys.
But okay, what about
You
the
have a movie
Mandalorian?
that has
but-
has
in the
three-arc-
Mandalorian,
that has a
it's-
3-arc story pattern.
Or with Obi-Wan,
Okay, but
it's like with the Obi-Wan show. Sorry, with Obi-Wan show, like he spends the first time we see Obi-Wan in the show, he's like working a job he hates, and we can see how depressed he is. Just like little moments like that.
all
Just
you
show the character
followed
doing
was
something.
Obi-Wan and Reva. That's it.
In this show, really,
Okay.
you're only following 3 characters.
In the Mandalorian, when they blow up the Razor Crest and everything, and they take the child and everything like that, there's a couple minutes of Mando just going around the wreckage and sitting there in sadness and everything, and they move on after it. But it's not even a minute long. I mean, it's very short. Yes, you can let these things breathe if it makes the story better and the characters more
Right.
impactful and builds up interest. If you just cut to
I
it
don't
and you're saying,
disagree.
"Oh, the reason is time,"
I
Oh,
don't
well, then what the
disagree.
fuck are you-
But we're also no. I'm saying I don't disagree with you in premise. Okay.
oh, okay.
But again, in this show, it's a time of the essence show. They're trying to get to it before they kill someone else. It's that cop murder mystery chasing the bad guy deal. So that's why they're jumping. That's why they did the whole thing of we need to go now. We don't have time to come back there to talk about this. And
Yeah,
it
you
took
can still
off,
have character moments on the
it-
ship. You could have character moments between May and this Sith being and stuff. That doesn't take away from there being a very critical time limit.
There
I think
were
you
a
could
few
have
moments.
those.
There were a few
So did
moments.
that talking to them. There
Yeah,
were.
There was
those
a
were good
couple.
moments.
Yeah.
I wish there were
understand.
more.
We needed more. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
things
absolutely.
could've been
We need
stretched out a little longer.
character-driven moments. A big question I have for you guys, because I completely forgot about this aspect, but I feel like it's important, at least for the show and these 2 characters, May and Osha. What did you guys feel about that dream sequence? Because I'll be honest, at first I liked it. I liked seeing like the person just standing by the door and running off. I was like, oh, that's a little creepy, actually. Yeah, that kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. I'm curious how this goes. And the longer that dream vision sequence went on, where it force vision, whatever it is, it became very cringe when they turn into like the little kids again. And it's like 2
Oh, and then
as
she got the
1,
black
1
eyes.
as 2,
Yeah.
and I know the black eyes were fun and everything, but like the little sayings that they had with it, and I am you, and you are me, and me, or what. That's where I was like, God dang, like you guys,
Nursery rhyme.
you let this one breathe a little too much. You went too far in a few places. Am I wrong? Do you guys like the
I
dream
thought
sequence?
I mean, I don't really have
I'm
much of
gonna
an
be the
opinion
one. I'm
on
going to
it.
be the only
I thought
one.
it's
I'm going to be the
fine.
only one that disagrees. You guys are probably all going to think.
I just disagree. I said I thought it was fine.
Well, you were saying at the same time I was. I don't listen to you when I'm talking. I finish what I'm saying. It's not just you. I don't listen to only. I don't listen. I finish what I'm saying. But it's my threshold for what is cringe is much higher than Only's.
That's
Only
true.
if they were if they were eating a fucking berry, he would say, "Look, they're literally member berries. They're eating them on the screen." That's what he would say. That's how low his fucking threshold is for cringe. He gets annoyed so easily.
I
You
thought the
fucking-
scene in The Force Awakens where
Old
Ray's
fucking
eating
man,
with the
I swear to
helmets
God.
on, Ray's
You
eating with
remind
the
me of the
helmet,
assholes in
the
Grumpy
Rebel
Old
pilot
Men.
helmet, and she's chewing with her mouth open. I cringe every
I
time.
like
That is
that.
one of
Oh,
my
I
least
hate-
favorite.
I hate you.
Yeah,
And it's-
that's
it's
one of my
like the
least
best
favorite
scenes in
parts.
the whole movie.
It's
I hate
so
it. It's
she's
like the
just
best-
That's
humanize her.
That's like the best writing the sequel trilogy had to offer is the establishment of
Oh,
Rey as a
yeah,
character.
I just love her
Once
eating with her
again-
mouth wide open like a.
the
No,
mouth
you
Open
are so. I agree.
bullshit.
Okay, I'm with Lunga. You are so dramatic about some of these things.
Yeah.
Only I love it.
Hey,
Like, come on, all right.
I don't understand how you can be like he has a low
Let's-
threshold for cringe. I tell you what's cringe, and you guys are like, "Oh, how dare you!" It's like you knew what you were getting into here.
Yes, because in my opinion, your opinions suck. That's just the
Oh, that's
reality
fair.
of it.
And that's why the show works, because my
Yes.
opinions suck, but y'all's is even worse. But Goldman, give me your shitty opinion about the Vision Dreams Force.
we have a little order. Let's have Palpa memes go first.
Oh,
I mean, I
go
kind of
after
said
it.
I already said I didn't have an opinion on it. I thought it was fine.
Oh, you don't?
I didn't think much on it.
I wish it was a little more clear, like instead of just vague lines. But I do like an issue I had, and I was gonna bring this up before, is they've established a lot of May's character development through cheap exposition. It's like she's sitting on her bed, right? And Yord is like, you left the order because you couldn't get past your childhood trauma. You lost your whole family, and
They've done that a lot,
You couldn't
yeah.
really
The
deal with
exposition
that.
dump is crazy.
And
yeah.
I'm so mad you brought up the Rey like beginning scene, because I was gonna bring that up in such a beautiful example.
More positive
Because
light.
it's like not once in the Force Awakens
You
is
just
Rey
pissed your
like
Cheerios.
not once is in the Force Awakens is Rey's like, oh, my family left me and it makes me depressed. It's like there's little hints that drop throughout that shows Rey's trauma about her past. Like in the moments where she's just drawing ticks.
And she
on the
sees
side of
the old
AT-AT.
lady and everything.
just
Or
like
she's
little-
scrubbing the things. She sees the old lady. She doesn't want to
Yeah.
be like that. No dialogue, but it says a lot.
Exactly. And I would have preferred more moments like that for Osha. And the twin sequence or the hallucination or whatever, that was one of those moments. I wish it happened before we were expunged her whole backstory. But the scene itself was fine. I wish just what happened around the scene and the development of her backstory wasn't.
I
We know
do agree
why,
about the
right?
exposition
We know
dump.
why.
They do exposition dump a lot.
Because the episodes are short and they need to move quickly.
No, you smug son of a bitch. What it was, it's they're obviously doing a diet. Okay, it's 100% a diet. That's what they're doing. But each of them thought the other one was dead.
Mhm.
So in their mind, they're rationalizing this connection as memories. Okay, as when it's actually a connection, and they don't realize it. So it presents itself in their mind as these moments where they're with each other as children, or and literally talking to each other. So in their mind, and it did not work the right way. They thought, oh, we're showing you, not telling you what's going on with the dyad, but in the process, you're telling us in an exposition dump of everything else is going on. So that it didn't work out that well, but I really feel that's what they were attempting to do. And
I don't feel like I don't believe the dyad part. I feel like the exposition dumps are annoying because it's kind of like the same thing of like, oh, your sister died in a fire with your whole family. Oh, something happened to you when you were young. There's a lot of regret going around. It's like, yes, we get it. There was something tragic that happened and everything. But yet again, it goes back to, okay, but why do I care? You know, like you got to give me some investment into this. And I really think next week's episode, because I'm confident this is the flashback one, I think we're going to get a lot of those answers, and it honestly might feel a lot more satisfying, but everything goes to the execution of the story and what we're doing. And I will say that's my biggest complaint about this series as a whole is, you know, I like the writing in some spots. I like some of the characters, the story, the plot, you know, the leads. I don't like a lot of the execution with some of this stuff. It's one of those things to me where I look at these Disney Star Wars shows and they're all so inconsistent compared to each other that it gets very annoying, where it's like, okay, it looks like you hired pros for this one, like adults, and it looks like you hired a bunch of amateurs for this one over here, and then this one had a mix of both, like maybe pro writers but amateur directors, or maybe pro directors and amateur writers. I don't like that inconsistency across Disney plus Star Wars shows.
Pro directors know how to fill in the deficiencies of amateur writers. And veteran actors also know. I think it'll sound, because there's a lot of changes that happen in movies that people don't realize is because of the actor, especially veteran actors. They'll say, "Hey, you know, I think it'll sound better if I do this. Well, how about if I do this?" You know, like Robert Downey Jr. That whole thing with Captain America, that point in line when he could liar, that wasn't in the script. He added that.
Well, you see the thing about Jack Nicholson in The Departed, where he's like, if you keep the cameras rolling a little longer, you know, that's a good one.
And if you keep them rolling just a little bit longer, yeah.
Now you could end the scene there. That's a good one.
But if
That's
you
a great
kept them
one.
rolling a little bit longer,
There you go.
But that's where I feel like when I look at these two episodes, and my big complaints have constantly been, all right, I don't like the way it's filmed all that much, or directed, or edited. at the end of the episode, it says directed by Leslie Headland each time. So I'm very curious if the next couple episodes, because they all have different directors after this, if there will be a difference in quality of directing where I can look at it and go, okay, because I feel like, especially when one of the best examples, that's why I
We
love
saw
The
it in
Mandalorian.
Mando.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
there you
was
go.
just going to say that. You can see the fundamental difference between each director and each episode. And it's kind of beautiful, and it works very well in that show. Sometimes it glares a little bit more, like when Robert Rodriguez gets behind the camera and everything like that. But for the most part, you go, oh, wow, this is cool. You know, Jon Favreau took it from like this shot into a nice little wide shot. It expanded. Wow, that's really cool. I hope we get that with the Acolyte, because if this is how the show is going to look going forward, I'm really concerned. I feel like this is going to be one of the last big budget Disney Star Wars shows going forward. I feel like they're going to cut down on these a lot, and I think
Not with Goldman.
but see, and that's
Praise
the
God.
thing too. Where I'm fine if they cut down on the amount they're doing, but they need to do one or two every blue moon, and it needs to be Andor level. It needs to be 12 episodes long. Eckhart's Ladder put out a tweet, I think, the other day, where he was like, I don't like these 8 episode stories, and then Disney Star Wars. We need like a series and
Proper
everything. And
story, yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. They need to commit to something. And the problem that I'm seeing with these Disney Star Wars shows and everything is it's like kind of tipping the toe in the water, putting a certain amount of money into it, but not committing to an overall story. You know, Andor was supposed to be 5 seasons, then it became 3 seasons. Now it's just 2 seasons, and it's so far some of the best Star Wars content that we've had. So I'm very concerned about the
Yeah,
future.
but
of
again,
Disney Star Wars
that's a
shows.
very short time frame for Andor from when he started to by the time we get to Rogue One. So you can't do. I mean, how much can you do? You see what I'm saying?
Well,
It's
they
like-
said they were going to do 5 seasons.
Lunga's right. Andor's an exception. I have hated that every Star Wars show they've done has been named off of a single character because it really
It's
limits
awful.
what you can do.
Yeah.
Boba Fett, Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, Andor,
Obi-Wan.
The Acolyte. Oh, that's
The
the other one. Yeah,
Mandalorian
every single
and
one.
Grogu.
It limits what you can
Oh,
do.
aren't you
right?
excited for
'Cause-
that movie?
Well, there was
I-
one that didn't happen though. Rangers of the New Republic. That was supposed
Yeah,
to be.
and it's
Oh,
gone.
yeah.
I would have.
I remember Rangers.
If I was
Remember?
in charge of Lucasfilm, right, what I would have done is just had one Disney Plus show that was called like Star Wars: Age of Republic, and have it basically be the Mandoverse, right? The first season didn't just have to be Mandalorian season 1. You could have like multiple storylines going on, but have like the Mandalorian season 1 be season 1, Mandalorian season 2 be season 2, a better version of the Book of Boba Fett be season 3, a better version of Mando season 3 be season 4, and then Ahsoka be season 5. So it's just like it just feels like a series instead of movies that are on Disney Plus that are scattered throughout, and you need to watch them in the right order. And if you don't, you'll be confused.
I actually 100% agree with that. I really feel like this need to try to connect things, and it doesn't. And I think the big problem is you can tell it's not all fully planned out. I highly doubt when they started writing The Mandalorian season 1, they were like, "All right, Thrawn, heir to the Empire. You guys ready? Let's go." You know, some of the stuff I know they adapted into that story as time went on, especially with Gina Carano being let go, and now Carl Weathers has unfortunately passed, and everything. A lot is going to change, but I do think that after this series and
Ray
everything,
Stevenson.
oh yeah, Ray Stevenson's gone too from the Ahsoka and everything. So it's stuff like that where it's like, you guys are going to have to commit at one point to something, and I think that's been the biggest problem with Star Wars over the past, honestly, maybe even 10 years, because they committed to the sequel trilogy, but not really either. That's in some points. They need to commit to something. They need to commit to
They
a
made the
full
movies.
story.
Well,
made
Yeah,
the
they
movies.
made.
Here's the thing. Aside with the Acolyte and Andor being an exception because they are different time frames. All the other stuff they're doing, they are all going to be technically leading to the movie, right? Mandalorian and Grogu movie. They're most likely all leading to that.
In a
Between-
way,
Yeah, but
yes.
something-
I
Between
think
Book
that's
of Bob, Ahsoka, and Mandalorian.
I think that was a bit of a redirect after what Disney Plus has been going through. I think it
100%,
was-
100%,
yeah.
movie but they, well, I mean,
I-
Come on. They
I
announced
think Dave
Mandalorian Grogu out of
Filoni's-
nowhere.
I think Dave Filoni's movie was always in the cards, that it was going to build up to that. I don't think the Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be some major event in the Mandoverse. I'm expecting it to be more of a Mandalorian season 4 than a Avengers type movie for the Mandoverse.
Yeah, I think
could be
they'd
wrong.
save that for Dave's movie. If that happens,
Yeah.
and I still question that.
But
Yeah.
that's still an ultimate problem, though, of like the way they've gone about that story makes you kind of look at it, and this is all off topic with the Acolyte, but the way to bring it back to the Acolyte is what I'm saying here is that I feel like this show, Skeleton Crew, and then what else we have? Freaking Andor season 2, and then we have Ahsoka season 2. I think that's going to be it for live action Star Wars stuff. Honestly, I
Eh.
think the quality that they have been putting out and everything, even with something like this that had a high budget, it's begun to water down the franchise. Even something like this that I actually think is good and I'm interested in, I can look at this and then immediately go to Andor or immediately go to Mandalorian. And then I can go to Book of Boba, Kenobi, maybe even the movies. You can see a stark difference where it's like, okay, is anyone doing quality control here? Because there is a point
Well-
where you want to have these creators have influence and everything, but it becomes a point where it's like it does water down the franchise, and as a fan, it makes you go like, oh, all right, like what
Are
are we
you
even
talking
doing
on the
here?
basis
But this-
of oversaturation or?
But this is
Not oversaturation, it's quality.
Okay, that was a big thing I was gonna ask you. Is like because like
Here's the thing, though.
You know,
They're
we-
restructuring, right? We know they're doing that. They're doing it at Marvel, and they're going to be doing it here. This was something that was already in production for a while. So this is like one of the last things. I don't think it's done. It's not done. They're just going to restructure. They're going to. We'll see if it works.
I think the
right?
way we
don't
know it is done. I think we're not going to be getting 2-3 Star Wars shows a year. I think we might be getting a Star Wars show
2 a year
every
is not
3
a
to
lot.
5 years.
2 a year is not a lot.
I would
That's
prefer
what we've
one a
been-
year that was like 16 episodes and 2
If
years.
you
Yeah,
do, if you
but
do
we've
2
been
live
doing the-
action and 1 animated a year, that's not a lot.
But see, even animation, we have no idea what's going on there. We have nothing in the works.
I don't really
animation
count
wise.
They hired
animation.
more. They
I
hired more
think-
animators.
I think Lucasfilm could do like 3 animated shows a year and it wouldn't. That doesn't oversaturate. I think
That does.
only these.
That's true. That's true.
I think only these live action shows at the end of the day really count. We love the animated shows.
These live
but
action shows, the live action shows do water it down, and I think that's a problem because, and this is where I become like an elitist in a way where it's like, look, if you're going to do Star Wars, you either need to go broke or go home. Like you can't do some of these half-assed productions or even like Kenobi where you are dirt cheap and it looks fan made in certain aspects. It's like, no, like you got there's a certain level and quality of care that you want to put into it, and I can tell they were trying to do that with the Acolyte, but then it gets into the execution where it's like, all right, you guys have the surface level feel or look of Star Wars, but you don't have the heart of Star Wars, and that's where
I disagree with that.
the
No, I
watering down
disagree with
comes
that.
in.
Just when they transferred over to Osha on that ship and Nemoidian and stuff, and the way she was goofing around and talking, I felt it. I felt Star Wars to almost that whole first episode when they transferred over to the Jedi Temple, with the exception of the way Vernestra Rowe looked, which was not great.
I felt aspects of it, but
it-
I don't have a scene where she's going out looking at the twin suns on Tatooine, and I'm like, damn, this is really powerful.
Okay, if you're gonna return everything back to the most iconic scene of the original trilogy, why you can't expect everything to be like that? Only come on now.
I think at the end of the day, this is
no
just like
iconic moments
From
ever
a TV
again.
show, from a TV show, come on,
Andor
dude.
Andor has become iconic with her
No.
at the end saying, fight
I
the
loved
Empire.
Andor. I loved it. It was spectacular. It was one of the greatest things I've seen Star Wars make. But it doesn't match that scene. Why? Because that scene holds so much nostalgia. It holds so much. Come on, man. You can't
Okay,
do
but
that.
it's not just that one scene. There's multiple
You can't
scenes in the
compare it
original
to that.
trilogy that are very powerful and good. Even the prequels have those moments where
And
Anakin
again,
looking
it's
out
movies.
and Padme.
You keep comparing these shows to movies. They're TV shows,
Okay,
bro.
well, then how can the Mandalorian capture some of that stuff and it be equal to the movies?
never
But
said it did.
none of these
You
other
did.
shows can.
I
Because it did. Are you saying the Mandalorian
we
didn't capture
we
any
are
of those
going on
moments?
a really long
No, it-
tangent.
I think it's an important
Huge
tangent.
Star Wars feels,
Maybe,
but
yeah.
not equal to the
I-
movies.
I'm
I-
more
I-
with Lunga. There's like moments here that I guess feel like Star Wars, right? But it feels like I'm watching like a live action version of animated Star Wars, right? I just have different levels
Yes.
to this. I know we're saying, movies are movies, right? It just as people hate a lot of the Disney Star Wars movies, right? Has anyone ever questioned the quality behind the presentation of the movie?
Exactly.
We have 2 people here, maybe 3, that passionately hate The Last Jedi. Do any of you think The Last Jedi was a movie that looked bad?
No,
we all
I've said-
agree?
I have said legitimately
Exactly.
it is the greatest shot anything in Star Wars in the history of Star Wars.
Exactly.
But yes.
I agree. I think it's the
Shut
best
up.
looking Star Wars
Shut up,
movie.
only. You said it.
Empire Strikes Back. No, Empire Strikes Back
No.
is the best shot
No.
movie
Even
by far.
even just with the thing is with like the prequels, right? There was I don't like them. But there were certain things about them that I could always appreciate. The music, the scale, the fights.
Ewan McGregor.
Just certain things, sure. Certain things that just reminded me why I love Star Wars. These live action shows, like The Acolyte, they have moments that feel like Star Wars, like little moments that make me chuckle. But I just feel like they're so handicapped by budget, time restraints, whatever, that it fails to capture moments that even the bad Star Wars movies have. And is it because it's just a show? Right. But I think some shows like Andor, we all love Andor, like the whole episode where they escape the prison and Luthen's speech and Marva's speech, like those are powerful moments. And is it unfair to say The Acolyte hasn't had one of those in the first 2 episodes? Yeah, that is totally unfair. So let's see if a moment like that happens. I'm not criticizing the show for not having that in the first 2 episodes. I just think it's a mixture of those moments are a mixture of a lot of things, and I think parts of it are not available in the show.
Part of it, and I'm going to keep saying this, is a commanding presence of a special actor that does that. Okay, Luthen's speech was all because of Skarsgård. Anyone else did that speech, it would not have been a moment. It was just because of him. He put so much into that speech, and then when you think of oh my God, Andy Serkis's speech. Andy Serkis knows how to deliver a line. Even though I hated the fucking sequels, when he was talking to Snoke, it gave me chills. He was so good as Snoke. There's certain actors that can just make something so much better. And as much as I like the actors in this show, the only one I think that has the potential to do that is Soul, but I don't know yet. We'll see.
I don't think
this is his first English-speaking role, so it's like a big ask of the guy. I hope he does.
Yeah,
he can.
No.
Yeah, you don't have to speak English fluently to be able to do that. It's a lot about just knowing how to act and body movements and emotes.
But looking at like
inflection.
even the sequels, I would pull up The Mandalorian and Andor. When it came to the production of these things, it seemed like they approached this with like, all right, this is very important. We have to do this in a very certain way. Some of these other shows, it really just feels like they were like, who wants to do this? Robert, you want to do Book of Boba? All right, here's $200 million. Have fun.
I want to jump in here. I'm going to say a really hot take because I went back and like watched a lot of the Mandalorian season 1 and 2.
Let me prepare it. Okay, go ahead.
It's not doom. It's just. I think I think, and I'm calling you out, Star Wars only. You really, really overhyped the production value of the Mandalorian's first 2 seasons. There is a lot of things in those first 2 seasons that I'm like, okay, this is pretty consistent with Disney Plus overall. I don't think they were that special. For instance, Mandalorian season 1 with they were in that prison with the Twi'lek prisoner and stuff. I thought that looked terrible. Reference number 2, the Bob episode where Boba Fett comes around and kills everyone. Looked horrible. But it was cool because it was an action scene. I think this is very consistent.
I want to bring this up real quick. First of all, the Bob episode is directed by Robert Rodriguez. Most of that
you said The Mandalorian, right? I'm just taking it as a whole.
Yes, I'm saying, but this is where the earlier conversation we brought up directors. Also, that scene in the prison and everything like that, or that ship. You are literally, and it's been about 5 years since you're the first person I've ever heard had a complaint about an actual real set like that, where they filmed it on location. That's not the volume or anything. I thought the costumes looked bad. I thought the set just looked cheap and not, as a word you would say, not lived in. Yeah. It's a prison. A lot of,
I'd like to follow up on that. I think situations and scale match expectations. The Mandalorian was a story about a bounty hunter just wandering in the galaxy. I don't think it matters that much. And his kid.
And his kid.
I don't think it matters that much that they're in these small locations, right? With Obi-Wan, whether the story wants to be small or not, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader stem from the prequel trilogy. I think a reason why we're frustrated by the scope of that show is because Obi-Wan and Darth Vader by themselves increase the scope of Star Wars. They matter a lot. With the Acolyte, we're talking about
the first lightsaber.
We're talking about Jedi. We're talking about potential dyads in the Force. Those are big, heavy topics in Star Wars. And the fact that the show feels small is problematic. Andor does not have a big scope with these characters. Short characters like Mom Mothma are involved in a lot of stuff, but it's mostly Andor, and he's not a big player in this Star Wars galaxy. So I think the characters and the situations you're in, the story should match that scale. And the Obi-Wan show and the Acolyte should be big in scope, but they aren't. That's just something how I've seen part of these shows.
Again, I mean,
guess,
I'm going to reserve total judgment on that. I mean, you could be right, but something like that, when we talk about scope, it's hard for me to judge it on episode 1 and 2. I need to hold.
You're absolutely right.
That's fair. That's
totally
absolutely fair. That's absolutely fair. So let's wrap this up before we keep going with some of these side points and everything. Let's give our ratings for episodes 1 and episode 2 of The Acolyte. So honestly, I can't even remember the names of them because I that's one
Lost
side
and
note.
Found,
I thought the names were kind of
yeah.
corny because it was like Lost/Found, not Lost and Found. But anywho, Lunga, what would you rate episode 1 and what would you rate episode 2 of The Acolyte?
I like both of them equally. I'll just give the number now before I get into my exposition on it. I would say I have them at an 8 for 1 and 2. Mostly because the acting was solid through all of it. I didn't have any problem with any of the acting. The writing, except for a few little moments, I probably can count on one hand that I thought were a little cringy. You may think there was 40 of them, but I only counted it on one hand. The whole production of it was well. I understood the story. I understood the conflict. It did leave me wanting to know more and intrigued on these characters of Osha and Mae. I want to know what's happening with them. I want to know Soul's involvement in it. I want to know what's going on behind it. Well, how these other Jedi were involved. Torben's line and how the way he took that poison really drew me in. I'm like, oh shit. If this guy went into a meditation for how many years, locked himself away from the world, he kind of did a reverse Luke, right? Instead of cutting himself off from the Force and hiding on a planet, he stood right there where everybody's at in the temple and locked himself in the Force, right? In deep meditation.
Like a man.
So, yeah. So doing that, and then coming out of it when she spoke after Soul said he'll talk to me, and Mae is what brought him out of it, and then taking the poison, whatever I did was so bad enough to make me do this meditation, and even that is enough. You're right. I need to die. That was like heavy. That was heavy to me, dude. I don't know how more people aren't talking about that, how heavy that was. And that really, as drawn in as I was, that really drew me in. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next. Despite people's doom and gloom of, episode 3 is going to make people who loved Star Wars to begin with all finally turn away from it. Okay, why? Because there's going to be a lesbian, right? You're going to find out there's a lesbian. That's it. It's over. Guess what? They're all lesbians because everyone loves women except you guys apparently.
I love all women.
I didn't mean you guys. I meant the detractors, not you guys.
I was like, hold on a second.
Oh,
you
hang
don't
on.
know me, Lunga.
The detractors,
I was like,
not you guys.
Do I need to tell her to not come over anymore, Lunga? Because I don't like women, apparently. All right.
You can like having women doesn't mean you like women. That's two different things.
That is true. That is true. Before we get canceled, Papa memes. What is your rating for the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte so far?
I'm gonna give episode. I'm conflicted. It's flip flop, but I'm gonna give episode 1 a 6.5 out of 10, and episode 2 a 7 out of 10. I think the pacing in episode 2 was a little bit better, even though I hated the ending. I thought that was stupid. I'm intrigued by the story. I think it's doing a good job of setting everything up properly. I like the characters. I really like Yord's character. Sorry, I think actually Yord has probably the most potential. It's just because he has a lot of interesting factors with him, of him being
he's gonna die.
That real stern Jedi. I think he is gonna die too. But I do like Yord. Soul is fantastic. The Padawans are great as well. And then of course the conflict with Mae and Osha. I'm enjoying it. I do agree with a lot of Goldman's kind of overall critiques. Where it's like it is still a Disney Plus show. You do have to factor that into everything, and you can see that. But comparing this to like Bob and even Ahsoka, just their first 2 episodes, I'm liking this way more. I'm way more intrigued. I like the era it's set in. I hope we see more Jedi ships. I hope we see more new things that really show off this new era. And of course, the masked villain, he's interesting. I'm really, really curious to see how they're going to go with that. But it wasn't anything spectacular. It wasn't Andor level of quality. So 6.5 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10 for me.
All right, Goldman, give us your rating, sir.
I want to clarify what my numbers mean, because I feel like a 7 to someone could mean 7 to something else. For me, mediocrity is a 5 and a 6. A 5 is apathetic mediocrity, and a 6 is mediocre, but I enjoyed it. To me, both these episodes would be a 5. I don't dislike them. I don't think they're bad. They're fine. Mediocre, people think mediocre means really harsh, really bad. No, it means it's mid. It's fine. So I would
Average.
say about a 5. Yeah, 5 and 6 is
Yeah,
about
but
average. I
mediocre
don't know
is
if
a much
average.
harder word for mid. I mean, I know.
Yeah, I was about
Fine.
Like,
Strict
It's
definition of
what's
it.
a 1?
yes.
Well, I
So
know, 'cause
one
mediocre is, let's say, a comparison almost. It's mediocre compared to this. But if you say mediocre
Fair.
alone, it sounds.
So my it won't go long. 1 is like a disgrace to filmmaking. 2 is barely passable as
Last
a film.
Jedi.
3 is bad. 4 is mostly bad with some good qualities. 5 is mediocre. 6 is mediocre but enjoyable. 7 is mostly good with few problems. 8 is really good. 9 is great, and 10 is like all-time great. So
And see,
that's
this is
just
where the flaw.
that's
is,
just
that's where the flaw in your
my-
rating says. You said 5 is mediocre, 6 is mediocre but enjoyable. But you said you
Yeah.
enjoyed this and you want to give it a 5. So how is it mediocre and enjoyable?
I would. Did I say I enjoy it? I was
He lost me.
6 is. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it. I was entertained.
That's
I would not
enjoying.
go. I would not. Maybe enjoy is a strong word. I would not go back and rewatch this.
Enjoy
that's
is
fair.
a strong
Yeah.
word. Okay,
Yeah,
I
it's just
mean,
like-
this is we're all different because I don't rewatch anything. So it's
Yeah.
it's
And I've already rewatched both
Yeah.
episodes once before we did this. My ranking for it, I don't even know. I can't give you like my justifications for rankings. I think mediocre is like 3 and below. For me, like
Yeah.
5 is like, all right, you're bad, but you're enjoyable-ish. Maybe you're good or bad, kind of 50-50. 6 is like you tried. Damn, I feel like I'm gonna be more positive toward the show than anybody else here. I gave
No, I did 8s,
episode
dude.
Oh, you did 8s? Yeah, you're right. Okay, then you definitely
Yeah.
did beat me. Because I gave the first one, episode 1, to me, that's like a 7, maybe to a 7.5. And then episode 2 is like a 7.5 to an 8. So I'm just going to say 7 and 8 then, and not have to meet in the middle. Overall, both episodes combined, it is a 7.5. But episode 1 is a 7 because I did find the ending to be abrupt. There was a little bit more of editing issues I think I've noticed in this one, and then the costumes, a lot of the makeup on certain characters really took me out. But for the most part, I did enjoy this episode, and even rewatching it a couple hours ago, I still enjoyed it. Episode 2 for me is better. I just feel like more is happening, and there's a little bit of a deeper connection to some of these characters and the plot being fleshed out and everything. And it's what really got me into the series so far. Where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to tune in next week. I got to find out what happens and everything. So
see, I
yeah,
still
first
don't
one in
understand your problem with
7.
I still understand your problem with the costumes. Like other than Vanessa Rowe, which looked like shit, and she was only in it for like fucking
Costumes were fine.
10 seconds. Everybody else looked great.
Oh,
I thought the costumes
when
were
I'm
great.
saying costumes, I'm thinking maybe I'm mispronouncing costumes, and I should be pronouncing makeup, because I think the makeup for Jackie is awful. I think the makeup for Yord's Padawan is they look very, very fake. You know, it's
It looked very the Yord's
I like
Padawan looked very
Jackie's.
plastic, but
Yeah.
Jackie I thought looked fine.
Yeah.
So
no,
I'm kind of in the middle.
Jackie looks like it looks like a Disney monster show, like Monster High or something like that, whatever that is, you know, like
So you're saying
like-
it doesn't
Can you
really
once
look
again
as Star Wars
What's
for you,
behind?
rather than it looks bad.
What's behind Goldman? He has a giant penis behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
a lot of work went into that
Hey,
penis
Star
to
Wars
make
only
it
has
look good on
never
screen.
praised the sequel trilogy Aliens. All right, so
Yeah, no, I'm
And-
just
and
saying.
Papa
Sometimes
Memes
stuff looks good,
has an
sometimes it doesn't.
owl, a bird with a pug's face. So I mean,
it's a
you know,
porg. It's a puffin.
In your basement of Raw, wherever the hell you're at.
I live at
in the world.
Napoleon Dynamite's house.
yeah.
God, I hate that movie.
Hey.
too.
Gosh,
But it-
Things
I
are,
love
things
that.
are getting
Shut up.
expensive here, man.
We
I
can't
fucking
be
love
friends
Napoleon
anymore.
Dynamite. We literally rewatched it on,
I don't
on
think
the
we
other day.
can. Yeah, no, Napoleon Dynamite sucks. I'm sorry if anyone likes it. I don't like that cringe ass
You
humor.
are you are lame. Yeah, yeah.
But thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of the Chatooine Show. If you liked it, please leave a like, support the channel, subscribe to see more weekly episodes about the Acolyte from us.
Oh.
And tune in next week for another episode of Chatooine. What's up, Longa?
Let's
Got any parting
let's the poll. Let's take a look at the poll.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't pull it up on the screen, but yeah. So it was 74% said yeah. 47
well then-
votes. 74% said yeah. We will put this up in the community tab too, because I know there's a lot of people who watch this on replay. So we will put it up on the community tab as well. But so far it looks like you guys will be okay with that. So we'll formulate something. We will revisit this after the Acolyte's over, obviously. Yeah, not now, but while this is going on. And then we'll obviously get back to Star Wars with, the skeleton crew would fuck them kids, but that's in December or something, supposedly.
Yeah, it's not coming out to December. So the only reason we're doing this is because there's going to be a big gap between July and like November, December when we actually might get more Star Wars content. So to fill the void, I mean, we could take a show break, but we don't really want to at the same time. Maybe a couple weeks. Did we make a new one? I mean, it's just the Acolyte going forward, right?
Yes, I made a new one.
Oh, I'm sorry. You did. I forgot you're on top of things. As opposed to me, where I would have been doing this last minute before the show started.
Get the calendar from like 2 months ago or something.
Yeah, exactly. Or I put June instead of July, or July instead of June.
But yeah, so we're watching. It's the Acolyte. Next 4 episodes, guys. 3, 4, 5, and 6. There you go.
Non-stop Acolyte content, baby. We're going to be here every week, every Wednesday night, talking about the Acolyte. So be sure to be there. Be sure to be square. Tune in next Wednesday night when we cover episode 3 of the Acolyte. All that and more here on Chatooine. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you always.
What?